Hi, my name's Geeta Sidhu-Robb, and I have the absolute privilege of having on with me today the fabulous Sam Smith, who has been a coaching client of mine actually for years, and is the CEO of AIM-listed company finnCap. And I was just saying to you, Sam, that I was like, let's press record because I wanted to get on record what you were saying, because not until I saw your CV did I understand that you were the only woman CEO that runs a brokerage business. Is that right?
I think that's still the case. 13 years ago when we did our MBO, I was the youngest and only female, and I'm still the only female. So I'm now the youngest and the oldest, and all of those things combined.
How old were you when you did the management buyout?
33.
Oh God, that's insane.
Yeah, so I was pretty young, and it was interesting actually at that time, because when I took on the role, there were obviously no other women running brokerages, and so all of our competitors were run by men. And I did start to chat to them all and think, right, okay, how do you do it? You know, this is a new role for me. I'm only 33. I don't really know what I'm doing. I was running a division before, and then I went into the CEO role and bought the business out. And I started to subconsciously replicate some of their behavior.
You
and
do
start
that
acting a bit more aggressive, got a bit less feminine. And it was only when, a year later, I thought, actually, do you know what? The power of what we've got and why we're recruiting different people and why we're growing is because we're different. And that's because I want to do it differently and have a different culture and not be hire and fire and not have that similar culture that was pretty much around before across all of financial services and banking.
But that culture was also, I mean, I just remember this from being a lawyer around that time, but it's very cutthroat. It was you either performed or you got kicked out, and there wasn't
it was very aggressive.
You as a person.
Yeah, and it's, now it seems a little bit less like that, and that's a good thing. But if I go back 13 years, I mean, it was very, the bottom 10% are out every year. You're just almost like a money-making unit. And there was very little care about the actual team that you were recruiting. And what my ethos was, which is now very much, right in the ESG space, right in the responsible growth space, it's always what we've done forever, which is just, treating people properly, treating people fairly, wanting them to have an ownership in the business, wanting them to have a voice and be part of the vision and feel like it's a fun place to come and they're involved in it. So culture for us has been the total thing that set us apart. And I think that's what has meant we've grown quickly over a short period of time. But, now that's so apparent. And I think people are starting to move in that direction, but it's still very slow.
So can we, let's take a couple of steps back from that, because let's talk about your growth, because in fact, not only you're so impressive, because not only were you so young when you did your management buyout, which, that takes balls in itself because you're 33, and in a male dominated environment, but you've then just actually consistently continued to grow. Where's that coming from? Because, okay, so there are a few benchmarks. You're the only female CEO of a brokerage. You did an AIM listing in December 2018. How many other women did an AIM listing that year?
Oh, I don't think there were many AIM listings at all. So I haven't looked back at the stats, but I would be very surprised if there was another.
Because I looked it up and I didn't see that any other woman had done a AIM listing that year. So I'm just kind of wanting to check. I feel like you were the only woman that did an AIM listing that year. I also feel like that you've just, what does it feel like to consistently be at the front and pushing this envelope? That's quite a big responsibility almost in a way. Or do you not see it like that?
I don't see it like that. I think that is just me. I mean, we're just constantly driving and trying to get somewhere. And that was part of the vision. When we did the buyout 13 years ago, we set it up to say, right, what can we do differently in this space? Because it's very competitive and we've grown the business in a market that's effectively shrunk. So the market's shrunk every year for the last 13 years. So when you're trying to do that, you need a proper USP. And our only difference was how we treated our staff and how we treated our clients. And it was always very much, we act for small, mid-sized, fast-growing businesses. And generally with the larger brokerages, you'll get treated, if you're the smaller client, as sort of the lesser important client. Our ethos was whoever you are, you get 24/7 service. You just get the top, top level of people. Everyone's interested. We care about what you're doing, no matter what size you are. And at the same time, we care about our staff as much as we do our clients. So it was sort of a whole package of doing the right thing for our clients, doing the right thing for our staff, everyone being part of that vision, everyone owning a bit of that company. So everyone was pushing in the right direction. And we just got, when you offer shares and people maybe take less salary and take the share option, you're automatically finding some brilliant entrepreneurial people who will go above and beyond. So we ended up, it wasn't a particular strategy of mine. It was just, again, down to this is the right thing to do. We just found some people who were just as driven. And it turns out that that's our cultural value, that, being, smart thinking, collegiate, dynamic, those are our 3 things now. For 10 years, we didn't call them values. We just recruited on that basis and found some people. But, we just keep going. We just keep trying to push new things. We believe everything's possible. I'm always wanting things done yesterday. I'm always trying to think about I don't really want to know where my competitors are. I want to think where we want to be. How can we be different?
About Cavendish. So, because we've got some questions, and I'll deal with that. But I want you to, I'll fit them in the right time. So keep popping your questions, guys, into the chat, and then I'll read them out. But when you then went to acquire Cavendish, and again, I'm saying that for me, this is quite a funny conversation, because I know you from the back end of being, you're my coaching client. I don't know you from the front end.
What?
Isn't it funny? I don't know you from the front end of these things. So I'm loving this because it's a completely different view. But so when you looked at Cavendish and when you bought Cavendish, how did you manage the transition there with the team and the culture?
Oh, so it was difficult, and it was actually much more difficult than I thought. So the reason for doing it was because we got to 5% market share with finnCap, with the quoted side of the business. We thought we could grow it to 10%, but above that, quite difficult. So we said, right, we need something else, which means we can grow the business beyond where just this current business can go.
Yeah.
So when we bought Cavendish, it was very much adding a service to the same sort of group of clients. So it was all about how do we sell that vision to everybody. So Cavendish would just sell side only, largely dealing with entrepreneurs. finnCap was largely PLCs. Now we were able to cross-sell all those services to the different client groups. How could we make that vision come to life and get them excited about it?
Cavendish team.
Yeah, and finnCap as well, because it was just as important to get them excited about buying something else and not feeling, jealous or what is this thing we've bought? Who are they? Yeah. So it was a lot of constantly setting out, this is the vision, this is our 5-year view, this is where we want to be, this is what we're trying to achieve. And for us, we called it owning the growth space. So we want to own that growth space. Companies under 500 million in market cap size, we want to be the go-to place, which starts off with financial services. So now we're this one-stop shop for financial services, but we want to move it into professional services. So isn't this exciting? We can create £100 million turnover business doing that. Every single division needs to grow. It can all fit together. But this gives us the platform together with the AIM listing to take it further. And you're all part of that. And we launched a Save As You Earn scheme on the day of the listing, where all the staff, including the new Cavendish team, could buy shares at a discount. So we got a good uptake of that. So they were a bit interested.
And then you create that shift in focus again automatically there, because people now are owning part of everything that they're making, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's a difficult thing. So from finnCap, from day one, the ownership was very much part of the culture, that everyone owned, if it was a tiny piece, just a tiny piece of the company, but it made them think differently like a shareholder. With Cavendish, it was a partnership, very much owned by the senior partners. So when we bought it, we offered out the shares to more of the partnership. We had the Save As You Earn scheme, but the idea is to keep getting people into the equity structure so that they feel part of the journey. Yeah. And that's for us has been the major thing. If they actually own something and are interested in shares, or even want to buy some shares in the company, you feel very different from just turning up every day, taking your salary.
So what did you then, you've only had a year of kind of marrying two big sort of organizations together, and then you have COVID. So one of the questions is, how did you manage to keep that culture going through COVID?
So what is fascinating is as soon as COVID hit, you go into that, it's all crisis mode. And I actually, weirdly, I do like a crisis. You're
really
just
do.
in my element of, right, let's just head down. We're just going to work through the night. We're going to get it done. It's all going to be fine. I never, ever think it's going to go wrong. So we're just about delivering it. And what was interesting about the crisis is suddenly culture comes out first and foremost, because every single bit of our thinking, when you're thinking fast, you can't fake culture. You can't fake thinking about the team. You can't fake authenticity and doing the right thing. You're just doing what is very natural. So the day it sort of hit, first of all, everyone had to work from home, getting everyone set up in a proper arrangement, which was quite complex because we had traders that we never thought could work at home. So we had some very serious, right, this is going to be long term. This isn't just have a laptop at home, work on your kitchen. This is technical. How can we really make this work properly so it's a working environment? Then following up on how people are, talking to them. Are they ill? Are their family ill? Demonstrably caring about how they actually are. And then once we've done that, it was, okay, how are we going to shore up the cost base? Because we've actually done very well through the quarter because all our companies raised money and we're in life sciences and tech. But when it hit, we didn't realize that. We thought it could be really difficult. So we cut pay. We furloughed people, but we did it in a way where
your pay. When you say we cut pay, I just like to point out you cut your pay.
But everyone took a pay cut.
Yes.
So every member of the team took a pay cut, but the big pay cuts were at the board level. So we took, nearly a full percentage pay cut at the board. And then as people were earning less money, they took less of a pay cut. So the lower earners would take a 10% pay cut. So we took a lot of the hits. So we would make sure other people, it wasn't too painful, although it was obviously painful. And what we also did, this was quite interesting, which was actually one of our team who actually runs finnCap and the MD of finnCap, Stuart, who said, actually, we should give something back. So we negotiated with the board to be able to give options to people at a discount, which covered the whole of that salary they'd given up. So rather than just say, look, you've got to take this salary cut, that's just bad luck. Everyone was doing it at the time. We're actually giving you something in return, and that's actually worth more than the salary you're giving up. So it's just things like that you're trying to give back something a bit more than was required, because we could have just said, look, everyone's taking a pay cut, it's all bad, but they got something back, which I think makes it feel that we're thinking about them, we're looking after them in a different way. We don't want them to struggle. We want them to be able to make that money back if we all do well. So it's a bit like, we're all in it together.
How did you disseminate that information? The fact that you were all taking a pay cut and that the board was doing that. How did you tell people that?
So we had to just disseminate. So we got in the heads of teams. We had our group meetings. We were on the phone 3-4 times a day, and we'd disseminate messages. And then the team lead would go out and talk and give the direct message individually to everybody. So everything we do is quite individual. It's not a blanket, right? It's an impersonal message. It's a conversation, talking them through it. So it kind of
goes this conversation to that conversation to that conversation. So it's more and more conversations through the business.
Yeah, which relies on everybody in the business having a similar culture, because you need to rely on them to say it in a similar way that I would say it and it not get misconstrued. So, things like that, that was our culture that kept everyone together. And then once we were through the awful bit of, God, right, we just got to shore up cash, then it was about, right, we're suddenly getting busy because tech and life sciences are our lead sectors. Suddenly all those companies were having, repositioning themselves as a test company, an antibody test company. One of our companies has got a treatment for COVID. So suddenly it went into this fundraising boom of every company wanted to raise money, and investors were still willing to back things. So it went from people taking pay cuts, we thought it was going to be really quiet, to we're phenomenally busy. People still were taking pay cuts, and working probably harder than they've ever have done before in a lockdown scenario. So then our culture became, right, how do we communicate in a different way? So we then start doing our monthly updates. I do a Zoom monthly update, trying to keep the personal nature of it. Lots more communication. We started a Friday feeling, which was about what's happening in the business. Trying to get some feel good things out there about what's actually happening, and trying to get people feeling connected. So there was a big shift in internal comms being the key to keeping our culture intact. And then there was a big shift almost instantly to, right, we can't do events, but how do we generate leads? So how do we talk to our clients?
And what did you
digitally?
do there?
So that was it probably happened in a week. So our marketing team did phenomenally well, but it was like, right, we've got to talk to our leads. How are we going to do lead generation digitally? What content are we going to provide? We're going to start webinars. And so we started a culture themed piece, which was getting our clients to talk about what they were doing in each different phase. So that was talking about, firstly, how do you get everyone from home? How can you communicate better? How are you now going to get back into the office? How are you now, carry on in culture about different aspects of what those companies might be looking at the time. So we just had lots of different ideas about content, which I think, our marketing team almost dead by the end of it, because I had so many ideas of, right, let's do this, let's talk to them about that. So we just tried to create a community of our client base that kept them connected.
So one of the questions is, are you finding that other people are now imitating what you've done in terms of values and culture because you've been so successful? Because you've been incredibly successful so far this year.
So some of our marketing, they definitely get slightly copied. So Ambition Nation is our nationwide campaign. It's all about fueling growth in UK PLC. And the idea is we're talking to clients about other things than, we've got these great services, can we raise you money? Can we do all of that? Which no one wants to hear most of the time, let alone a pandemic. So talking to them about ambition and why it's important and how they can grow their confidence and something they're interested in. And we showcase stories, other clients' stories of ambition and how they've gone through the journey. So entrepreneurs love seeing other stories.
Yeah, it's like
so that gets copied a little bit. But what I think is almost impossible to copy for a long time is the culture and the values. So you see a lot of things that look great, but actually what you do and what you say can be two very different things. And I think we absolutely walk the walk. We can do the marketing piece, but it's about actually what we do. And I don't see many following on with actual change in culture and really believing in doing business in a fairer, better way.
And so a lot of this you've put down as well to you being a woman. And so you're coming at it from a completely different place, not just traditional brokerage, but just in the way that you've grown your business. But let's take this then into you and ambition, actually, as a woman, because how have you managed, because this is now a question, is again, how have you managed the work-life balance and how have you managed to keep that going? And the story that I love the most, which I often tell without necessarily naming you, is when you had you had the AIM listing and you also had your daughter.
Oh, yeah.
I always remember
the nativity and the IPO on the same morning.
The IPO and the Christmas play on the same morning. And I remember you thinking, managing that.
Yeah, it's really hard. It is hard. When I had Aoife, I had expectations, and she's now 6, and when she was born, of how it would all work, and that completely got shattered. It was a lot different, and some of it was me and my own dealings with it. Some was actually what was happening, but I would say I call it my guilt threshold. It was really hard to establish how much work I would be prepared to do and how much time I would have with Aoife and try and get that balance right. And it took me 2 years of trying multiple different ways of doing it, coming back home, seeing her, then going back out to a work dinner or doing a breakfast, and then after 2 years, I found a good solution that worked for me. But I realized for every woman, that's very personal. And actually what we should do at finnCap is tailor maternity flexibility to the individual, because someone might want to leave at 3:30 2 days a week, and another person might want to wait 2 days a week from home, and another person might want to have every breakfast with their child and then work late.
Exactly.
3 days, you know, it's all totally different depending on your child, your relationship, how you work. And so I felt guilty for 2 years about doing everything very badly, and I felt huge pressure, which I don't know if it was real or not, about what my colleagues thought of me as a mother. Yeah. I thought I should overprove, like go to all the dinners, carry on as I did before, which I did for about 7 months, and it almost killed me. And then I was off with exhaustion. But I realized actually that wasn't a very good role model, because it was not possible to do that. It was awful. And I needed to set the example and not work in that way anymore. And your working life can't be the same before as after.
But that takes also, that's come about, what I've seen in you, that's come about in your confidence, because as your confidence has grown across the board in you as a person, you made completely different choices. So do you feel that? Because that's what I've observed in you. Because
massively. Yeah. And, you know, obviously the coaching has been a vital part of that. Just saying, actually, can you do less hours but achieve more? How do you actually become a person who's focused on the strategy, focused on what you're good at, keeping your energy high, motivating everybody within the team, having a good vision, and also doing what you need to do at home? And so what we've managed to create together over the last 3 years is me probably working less full on time in the business to free me up to spend more time with Aoife and you know, actually doing things I want to do with her, but while still achieving more than I was before. And you always told me it was possible, and I thought, nah, I'm not sure how this is going to work, but it actually does. So, you know, focus, delegating, you know, all that confidence that you're not thinking it's about the hours you put in and the hours you sit at your desk, and it's actually about what you achieve. And you can actually achieve an awful lot.
I've noticed that with working with you over the years, the things that I've really enjoyed is that you always had the sass. I always remember, I mean, like it always makes me laugh when you said that your Aoife's father was saying, we've got to bring her up and buy her a house. And you were like, sod that, and bring her up to buy her own bloody house. Yeah. You know, and I love that. And you always had that. What I found with you when we were coaching was the bit that it didn't carry over into all of your life. And that what you were really good at work, and I'm saying this because I think this is so true with so many women, but they don't know it, is that with you noticed that there was the discrepancy in how you felt when you showed up as a mother instead of showing up as a CEO. And one of the things that you've done now is that you've got confidence across the whole of your life, and that's a beautiful thing to watch, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I probably haven't sat back and thought, right, the change, but now you say it's been a unbelievable change, in that I don't now feel I need to justify it, and probably because now I don't have to justify it, people don't think about it. So it's, you know, how much of it was my worry, or how much of it was me presenting myself in the wrong way and apologizing for something, whereas, you know, that shouldn't be the case. It was, you know, as long as you're achieving results and you're doing a good job, which I think I am, then that shouldn't matter. And you know, at the end of the day, we're trying to create something where other people can follow in your footsteps and be able to work better, have a better work-life balance, you know, achieve more, think it's all possible. And that can only be done with working in a different way.
So can you talk to me also about the thing that I also really enjoy about coaching you is that your incredible level of ambition. And I love that, because I'm massively ambitious, and I love the fact that you're incredibly ambitious. So I know, though, that it's not always been comfortable for you to be that ambitious, and that it's been something that you've kind of fitted into your life a bit. Can you talk to that a bit?
So when I set up finnCap 13 years ago, I had this sort of unconscious thing in my head that was, I wanted to get it to this level, and that would be my personal marker of success. And that's sort of what drove me in the first 5 or 6 years. And it was actually a really interesting conversation with a mentor of mine, that had been running a FTSE 100 bank, who said, look, can you grow this past this figure that you've got in your head? And I was like, well, I can, but it might take 20 years. Or they said, well, just forget this figure. It's just like a meaningless figure. It's really holding you back. And it was only one lunch and a little bit of advice that I remember walking back from that lunch from the West End to the city. And it took me all that time to get my head around it. And I thought, do you know, that's completely right. And the very next day, I forgot about this target in my head. And all the decisions I made started to be based on scaling something bigger.
Yeah.
And that's when we started to talk to female leaders in our Ambition Nation campaign about we call it think big and be bigger. But you quite often have your own mental block of where you need to be. And as soon as you open that up and realize you can be bigger things start happening. You start hiring the person that will take you to double that size, or you create an opportunity because you've mentioned something else to someone and it comes in. So you suddenly realize your world, when you think bigger, starts to happen bigger. And yeah, that was a really eye-opening thing. But it does feel weird. I mean, it does every time. It feels less weird than it did maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But every time we go through a change, doing the IPO, doing our first acquisition, I was petrified about that. I think, I don't know how to do this, never done an acquisition. Is it going to work? I've floated hundreds of companies myself, but we're now going to be floated. What's going to happen? You're in the public spotlight. Is that going to be okay? There's all those insecurities that come up all the time. And which is why, every 2 weeks we have our chats, because after 2 weeks, I can lose confidence. It is that quick that you start thinking,
how short time is.
Yeah, really short. And you just need a little bit of, right, I'm back on track. Okay, what's this about? Getting that sort of mojo back and realizing you can do it and that ambition's fine. And I think also the other thing I found is as we've grown faster and we've become bigger, I think men find that more threatening. And I hadn't realized that was such a thing. I thought coming up through, the junior ranks, that was when it was difficult. And I hadn't realized actually, when you're playing with the big boys suddenly, that's a weird place to be. And I think that's been a whole new way of navigating how you feel, how they make you feel, whether that's intentional or not. All those things I found very odd.
But I mean, it's shown also because in the coaching conversations that we have, they used to be about different things. And now part of the conversation is about how you come across as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting, because I think as women, we're not trained to think of ourselves as deeply ambitious, go-getting type sort of almost entities. It's very masculine as an approach. And what I admire about you is that you are creating your feminine version of being that incredibly ambitious. And that's, as you said, it's not always the easy thing for you to do, but the more you're stepping into who you are and how you see yourself, the easier I think it is for other people to see you as that.
And I think finding that the female power, I remember at the beginning we talked about, what I feel comfortable with not, and I was very uncomfortable with the very aggressive female approach, which was probably, in financial services a bit what it was like. You had to be the ball breaker, which I didn't feel comfortable with. But then I also couldn't reconcile not being the ball breaker with actually being powerful in a different way. Yeah. And I remember you talked about it was like water, you're flowing like the water, but then water can also, stop things, cause tornado, tidal waves, do all sorts of things that are very strong, but from a position of calm, and it's that different power. Yeah. And I think that's been probably one of the single most important things, I think, to feel that I can have this feminine power, still be who I am, be authentic to me, but be powerful and strong when I need to be, but not in the way that I thought I needed to be.
Yeah, it's really, I love that, because what you're doing is not being bullish about it. You're being you, but you're being completely feminine about the fact that you have all these goals and what you're doing. And I laughed because you had this piece in the FT And there's this huge piece in the FT. So I would text Sam going, yay. And you write back going, I was wearing a pink dress or something.
It was yellow. It was yellow.
Oh, was it? Yeah, it was a feminine.
Yeah, it was a winner.
It was a feminine kind of color, and it really cracked me up because I liked that that's an awareness of how you operate, because it's very up front of mind. It's not something you never wake up and think, I've got to go do this and be this. You think, I am me. How is this going to happen now? Because it has to be authentic and true to you, right?
Yeah, and I think finding your authentic you is really hard. And once you do, you can just grow so much faster and be true to yourself and have the ambition. And I think about those early articles that I did. Yeah, I when my grandfather was alive, he'd phone me up and say, you're coming across a bit masculine, you're coming across a bit aggressive in these pictures. And I think, well, no, that's just what I wear to work. And now I look at the difference.
Yes.
Like 10 years ago to now, it's a small thing, but that I did look quite hard and cold and a bit, and I'm sure the papers try and move you to that direction, but now it's a different image. It's something much softer that you're giving off, but I still don't think I give off, right, you're weak and you're rubbish and you're not going to make good decisions and you're not passionate about what you're doing, you're not ambitious. But that is now, I found what I am and be true to me, and now I found that I feel much more comfortable in everything else that I do.
It's lovely, isn't it? Because it provides it's like the undertow in a boat almost. It's the flow that pulls you along when you've got who you are. It pulls you as that person doing everything that you do. You don't have to work at being that person in the same way.
And there's no noise. What I find, and maybe it's me, but I think it's a female thing as well. All this noise that's going on about, should you be that? Should you be that? Is that, is that right? It's very draining. And once that noise is gone and you think, well, I'm just me and that's how it is, you have so much more time to focus on what you're doing, because all that energy has disappeared that you're worrying about other things.
Well, and you don't have to be all things to all people. And it's the same, exactly what you said with finnCap and the culture is exactly what you're saying about yourself, because you can't pretend it for COVID. You've got to have been doing it all the time to be that person, because in a crisis is when that shows up the most, right? And even your crises are getting better because you have a different place that you come at them from. Than when we started coaching 2 years ago or whenever it was. You just come at them from a different place and you're more clear about what's not working, as opposed to, oh shit, I can't do this. That's the biggest shift I've seen in you.
Yeah, and it's interesting now. You see, when industries are coming back to normal, they were now going to second wave, but you started to see the reactions and the initial trying to do the right thing start to peter out. And so people's real culture and real authenticity were really showing their true colours. And I think that's been fascinating. It's like the crisis, you could see something and then the reaction and how it goes back to normal. You start seeing who is just wanting to revert to how they were before, who's really thinking about this as an opportunity to do things differently and take advantage of the way we can work differently and how we can bring a different group of people into the firm to work. And
your office, sorry, you've just reminded me, talk about your office, because you did that. You just transformed, you bought this incredible building. And
so we leased our building in January. So we got a brand new building. When we bought Cavendish, they were in one office and finnCap were in another. And we brought everyone into the same building, which was part of what we wanted to do to gel the cultures. So we signed the lease in January. We were due to start the fit out on the 2nd of April. And then, as well as all these other things happening, pay cuts and, getting everyone working from home, making sure everyone's safe, we had this building to fit out and we lost our fit out financing and our contractor couldn't fit out because you couldn't get anyone into an office to do a fit out. So it was a bit of a panic. We had a 20,000 square foot office that was a canvas and 2 empty offices, which we're going to run out in September. But we managed to, within 6 weeks, get that all back on track. And then I managed that project. I did the whole office fit out project management from home remotely. So we moved in on the 7th of September. And luckily, when I walked in, I was only allowed to come in every month because I had to have all my PPE to go into the site. And luckily at the end, I was on the verge of tears and I walked in the lift. It's like, oh my God, it does look how it was looking in my head. So that's lucky, given I chose everything, bits of samples sent to my house and trying to choose various things from home was a quite comedy, but yeah, it was very exciting. So now we've got this brand new office and everyone's together and it's all COVID secure. We managed to sort of reprogram it in a bit of a COVID compliant way, and we've made it more of a homely feel than an office. So there's a big breakout area, which is amazing for the team to have a place to chat and collaborate. So we think now the office will be not only somewhere to work, but it will be more a place to convene and collaborate. And we'll never go back to 5 days a week in the office working again. And we don't want to.
See, that's amazing, because I speak to other really, really big companies and they're like, how fast can we get you back in? How fast can people are really kind of like, you're not, I mean, obviously half of us are trying to run away from the children and go to work, but that's like an option thing. So the other people are being forced and being made to feel guilty about not turning up to board meetings. And that's really, it's actually happening across a lot of my coaching clients.
Yeah, no, I see it in some of our competitors.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean about the true culture. It's like, you know, we've taken this as a real way to move on, flexible working. How can we've got a very diverse workforce anyway, but how can we use it to bring on an even more diverse workforce and attract people who maybe were out of the workplace or wouldn't think of this as a career? And it's given us a massive opportunity to be different again and lead the way in. Look, we want to be different. We want it to be, a lot of the dads have got used to seeing their kids at home. They now want to be at home a bit more. Well, that's brilliant. They should want to do that. We should encourage it, not make people feel bad for wanting to do that. And then you see others where, like you said, they're wanting them to come back to this, how it was before. And it's, well, that we haven't learned anything. What have we learned from this disruption is that we can have a different work-life balance so everyone can be happier, more productive, better life, better workforce, better diverse group thinking. All of that leads to me, faster growth and a differentiated business. So in a way, it's good that other people aren't all doing it for us.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's sad because it's so sad they can't see the opportunity of what this could be, which I think is a game changer.
Your femaleness, I think, contribute, at the risk of not being too gender kind of thing, but I think the fact that you're female and the variety of the way that your women are willing to think and what they're willing to put into the mix of decision making, I think it's really playing to our strengths as women here. One of the questions is, what is the one piece of advice you'd give your daughter?
I probably absolutely believe in your gut. I think your gut instincts tell you a lot. I think we're amazing at it, and whatever anyone else says to you, whether they're much older, they're much more senior, whatever it is, whenever I haven't believed in my gut and just gone for it, it's gone wrong. Whether it's from hiring someone, taking a career choice, whatever it is, you know what's right, and you have to stick with that gut and be true to you.
Yeah, because it is you that's creating your life ultimately. So if you aren't, tell me then, just as we're finishing up, what is it, because I don't think I've ever asked you this question, what is it that when you come for coaching, what is it that makes you think, what is the role that coaching plays in your life? I know what you and I do, but I've never asked you what role coaching plays in your life.
So it's a number of things. One is I think it's a leveler. So it's that taking that hour just totally out, where you think you haven't got time to have the hour out, and look at it in a completely helicopter view, someone seeing it for what it is, rather than what you think it is. And what is amazing about a coach, particularly when you've got a long relationship, is they see patterns, they see trends, and they tell you, is it something that's actually happening, or is it something that you're thinking? And so what I find is I go in thinking, I've got no time for this. What am I doing? I've got so much to do. I come out thinking, right, feel great. I was doing that wrong. I've now got, I'm sorted on that. So the clarity of thought, the sort of helicopter view, and as well as everything else, giving me the reassurance, a specific issue, how I deal with a specific challenge. But I think all of it comes back to that one, someone helping you discover what's the crux of your issue. And a lot of it is to do with you personally, how you see things. And it's not a textbook. Someone can say, right, you've got this problem, you do it. It's more, as we say, it's more about me, how I'm dealing with it. Am I just having a bad week? Have I, it makes me feel very in control and renews my energy very quickly.
Yeah, no, and it's true, because you can, and it is one of the joys of having, I think, and thank you, because that's kind of how I see it. I see it as a place where you show up, where you want time for you, because you are the person that runs everything. You're the person in charge of everything. You're the person responsible for everything. And so this is a space where you get to ask, and no question is too small or too stupid or too weird or too, different, because it's always, but I feel this, and how does this work? And what about, I want to do this. And so the coaching sessions that we have are interesting, because you sometimes turn up with problems. And actually, there are times where you're just there because it's been booked in, and you're like, I'm here now. And it's really funny, because I can always tell the difference, because they're the ones where you're like, all right, what are we going to talk about? And then it'll be this thing and then it'll focus on something, and we'll come to a resolution with something. So I enjoy that, actually, as an experience.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, I couldn't recommend it highly enough. I get a lot of my team to have coaching, and I think all senior leaders, anyone in a leadership position, should have that sort of outside, external, totally for you. You be able to say whatever you need to say, and just ground you and get you to achieve things much faster than you otherwise would.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam, thank you so much. I'm very grateful.
Thank you. Lovely to speak to you.
Time to get us to inspire loads of people. So it's the fabulous Sam Smith, the CEO of finnCap, and my name's Geeta Sidhu-Robb. Thank you very much for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.